Messing with some of my microphone settings, trying to get a slightly better sound. I have like a lot echo in this room. So hopefully that helps. I don't know. We'll find out. Let's take a look at where we were. What were we doing? We were doing the camera stuff, kind of combat setup. So we got our player. And we kind of set up a timeline to control the camera. So we can always call that. That's great. We have the melee swipe stuff. That's great. Let's take a look. We can always simplify even further. So a good example would be that the character can't go forward or backward too much. Like we have a circle. So around whatever enemy you are, you're always kind of within that area, which might help, especially with mobile. But we'll see. Right now, this is a bit high up, I think, because we're getting weird issue as we get close, because we're essentially going to be swiping from here all the time, you know. How do we want to control this then? So we want the camera to make sure it never gets into a bad spot there. A couple things we could do is just combat camera. Let's take the socket. Let's drop it down a little bit. We could always push it back to the socket itself. Let's find out. Yeah. So I want my character to influence this camera a good bit, and it's not. So essentially what's happening is as we get close, the camera keeps trying to look down at the hips to keep this centered up, which is fine, but we don't need it to be centered from there. We want it to be centered a little bit down. So we can either update it as we get close to move the camera down and backward a bit, so that it's more like this or further down even. But somewhere right around here is kind of where we want to keep it. We also could update it so that we can't move the pitch up at all, essentially. Not like this, at least. Good question on how we want to deal with this. Because as soon as we start getting close, we're attacking. The camera keeps going to pitch up until we get to this point every time, which is not ideal. Okay. Let's just try something. Let's try negative upgrade on this. Because, well, our socket, this is going to control the camera itself, but not the starting point. So that might not even matter. If we want to do a target offset, difference being world space versus kind of the local space. Let's take a look at it. We're putting it in -100. Let's swap it out for the other one in just a second. Yeah, see, it doesn't really help. Not with our that current predicament kind of thing. So let's make that zeroed out, and just to see how it's going to affect us, we're just going to pop that back by default and keep it there. So right now, we're getting stuck in things and stuff, but okay. But see, there we go. Because we're not starting right here, we're starting like 100 units back. We can still get stuck here though. Okay. So one of the main reasons is because our yaw is basically getting caught up there. There's nothing which says that our yaw has to be anything, in here. There's no way to keep it behind the player in a certain spot, and that world offset isn't going to help us because we would have to update it constantly. Let's see if we could just limit the yaw to always be behind the player then, or at least mostly behind the player, because that will solve that issue and it will help keep us aligned, because really we want it to be like that where the stuff is kind of lined up in this having the character right around this kind of side of the screen. And so if we ever get into a situation where we don't want to have it get messed up, like not keep us there. Okay. This would be interesting. I'm trying to think of the best method to do this, because you could just hard limit it here. We could try and average it or something. Let's just do it as get active rotation. This might be a frame behind, but it really doesn't matter because we're essentially updating it after we do this, but it's fine. What I want to do is say, okay, this isn't going to quite work, is it? So there's a point where the control rotation goes from 0 to 360 degrees. So if I'm just adding to it, it doesn't quite work, because there'll be a point where, it goes from that 0 to 360, or it's going to be like, I don't know, 180 where it swaps to some other number. It's just kind of how it works. So this isn't going to quite work, but let's just give it a test. Actually, the bottom one's going to be -35, isn't it? Or no, I think that's... But yeah, this isn't going to quite work, but let's just give it a test. Yeah, what else do we need to get done today for this? I'd really like to get in a few things. Yeah. Let's take a look at it. I'd love to get into some more combat stuff, so... Oh, I didn't change one of those back. Oops. I'd love to get death state in there so that the we can defeat the enemy even though he can't really attack back or anything like that. But it would be pretty nice. Okay, it's working a little bit better. I don't see any errors with it. Maybe this clamp angle is actually helping. Let's do a print string. And let's take a look at it. Okay. Got negatives. It looks like it's working. Huh. So having that clamp angle, I think, is fixing any error that we would have, which is great. At least that I can tell right now. Alright, so beyond that, this is looking better. So that 35 degrees in either direction essentially means that it can't keep turning like it's trying to before. So again, this is getting pretty good. We can even limit that cone down further if we want. Drop these down to, I don't know, negative 15 and 15. So it's really small. So even when we get here, it's okay. It might be too small though. We'll see. The other thing we can do is also just limit the pitch then. Yeah, so this is going to be a little tough in terms of that control scheme. So when we're in this spot, just going left and right, you can see how quickly you move backwards a little bit, which isn't something we really want. There's plenty of ways to kind of solve that. The easiest in terms of making sure that the player is in the right spot to attack is just to really kind of push them up and keep them in a certain spot when they're attacking or around that, basically doing quite a bit for them or having it like a complete control taken away. I'm going to try and avoid taking away control if we can. But it's there. That's an option. Let's do negative 25 and 25. I think that's good. All right, we don't need that anymore. Oh, whoops. There we go. Okay. So we have a min-max from our actor rotation. Seems to work pretty well. We also can do just a straight up clamp for our pitch, which by default our controller and camera manager has a clamp on it, but we're going to clamp it even further. So, 30 and 30, something like that. I mean, the hope is that you're not really ever fighting someone when they're like way down below you or above you. You need a little bit of wiggle room because a big character, you need to be able to pan up just a little bit, but yeah. In fact, we could probably just make a quick test case, bigger bad guy, just to see like how far we can tilt and see if it's good enough or not. Make a child character enemy, and we're going to call this character, character enemy, and then what is its name though? I'm going to use the same name that they gave them. Paragon minions. Minion. Prime Helix, is that it? I think it is, yeah. Prime Helix. Just going to call him Prime. And we're going to swap it out. Prime Helix dude. Much bigger. And we'll see if we have to scale him down slightly, but either way. Let's do it 2 million. And we need to go bigger. 250. Let's just do a animation asset idle. I bet they have an idle, right? Yeah. To make sure it kind of fits in there. Trying to get it to be at least a little bigger, but maybe it'll be okay. Let's do 220. I'm gonna drop them down just 2 units just to make sure feet are always in the ground. And I think, yeah, let's see. I have to throw on the socket. So the way that I'm doing this stuff is return the focus location. We're getting it from a point in the character. Although he'll have hips, I think. I think the hips are going to be the same. I think it's the other one. It's probably named pelvis or something. Mesh pelvis, yeah. So this is actually going to get called from in the child class automatically. So let's just see if it works right away. And while we're at it, let me just jump back into this guy here. And we're also going to just throw an idle on him. Just because. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we get into combat. We can still kind of move through his arms a little bit, but we'll figure that out. Because there could be one of those things where we just have a circle, an extra piece of collision essentially, where the player just doesn't go further. But they still, can damage him. But yeah, so the tilting up stuff, still not bad. We could see about changing this to be something up here, just to test it out even further though. So we're going to override our function for return focus location. And we're just going to take the same thing here. Although, what we could do is just put in socket bone as well. We'll do it later. So the pelvis, what do we want to check out? Probably like spine 1 or spine 2, I'm assuming. Meshes, skeleton. Spine 3, pretty high up. Spine 2, let's do spine 2. Let's see if that kind of clamp is too much or not. I think it's fine. It's still, I guess, pretty good. It might be too tall now, though. You can drop it down to spine 1. But I think that's a pretty good spot where 30 degrees up and down, you can kind of, as you get close and far away. Because you can see almost all of them. We could also do some things like in combat. We keep bringing the field of view up more or something. Give us a little bit more view. But not right now. Let's not worry about it. Alright, let's close. And let's drop back in our other guy for the time being. Okay, so we need to do things like actually be able to damage and kill enemies and even our own character. So let's start looking into that. Characters, we're going to go to our parent character class. And we can take a look at some of this. So we have the damage stuff. Right now it doesn't really do anything. But our character swings. The sword has some sort of collision. For our case, it's like box collision for everything. And when it intersects, overlaps with another actor, we essentially just try and damage it using Unreal's kind of damage stuff. So we apply damage based on the sword swing. All right. So when we enter combat, we're telling our character that we're in combat, but we're not telling. I'm sorry, not entering combat. We want to do when we're attacking, because I don't know if we're telling the sword we're attacking yet. It needs to be able to turn on and off its collision, essentially. I'm just gonna toss a comment in there. Death state, damage state. What else do we do? Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so here's another issue though. In our parent class, we have a character that is assuming that the weapon it has is like our players, or well, our player class really. I don't think we have anything in the parent class for this, but let's jump to it. So essentially what happens is when we melee attack, we're playing an animation, we're attacking, and then when we delay and then we say we're no longer attacking. We have to do all the checks to the swords and stuff right now in our character class because the enemy class isn't going to have a weapon. It's built into their character. His weapon is already in his hand, whereas ours is a separate object. Which, where's my blueprints for it? Blueprints, weapons, there we go. Which we have a lot of this set up. Enter attacking, exit attacking. Okay. Which is great, because we are pretty close to being done then. We're applying damage. And our character class here should be receiving damage. Enter death state, enter damage state. Let's see if this is working. I don't know if we ever checked it. Print string. Alright, we're just going to do damage. And let's check it out. Maybe we're already all done with that part. No. So where are we missing it? Could be like I thought, where we're not calling the enter attacking state kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, so we start the attack, and what's going on is we're playing a montage, right? So let's go to our montages. In here, we have a attack animation we're using. Let's jump to that one. Attack 1. All right, pause. So what happens is we have this attack start, attack end, and we have a attack 1 end. Okay. Let's take a look at our notifies. All right, free to animate is going to be in our other one too. So let me take a look at the swing. Swing 1 end. Okay. So in here we have this thing called free to animate, which is supposed to be that we can call and say, hey, player, you can now start moving. We kind of still have to set that up, I think, but that's a good one to make sure we're going to be keeping an eye on. And then the attack, player attack 1, this attack, and this end attack is going to be where we start and stop damage. And this will be like a spot where we can do a combo between this point and like another point kind of thing. Let's just do the damage first. So start attack, or attack, start, attack, end, right? All right, let's do that. This is in our player animations, so we're going to drop it into here, into our animation graph. We can do event, attack start, and attack end. Okay. This is going to be the same for everything, essentially. And all we're going to do is going to call it on our player. As long as we have a player, we need a thing to say, hey, we're doing an attack or doing we're ending that attack. Now back in our player, we have to tell our weapon. And we actually can change this to be not attacking based on this, but based on the montage stuff. Those what do you call them? Animation notifies. Okay, so our weapon has a blueprint interface called enter attacking for the damage. Turns it on and turns it off, the collision itself. And in here with our player, we also should have an enter attacking kind of thing, shouldn't we? I wonder. Let's go to our interfaces and see. It's going to be a BPI characters interface. I could also do an interface where I return the current weapon that I have. Right, there it was. Okay, characters. Enter damage, exit damage, enter death, set focus, return focus. So I need to decide what I want to do. So I could return the weapon. The weapon interface has an enter attacking, exit attacking, equip, unequip, block, enter, exit blocking. So a lot of these things can also apply to the character. So the character is going to be entering into an attack state and exiting an attack state. We already have like a Boolean for it. We also do things like we can call the equip weapon or unequip weapon the blocked as well, where we essentially can tell the player, hey, you were just blocked playing animation. So that kind of thing, yeah. We can also add this blueprint interface not only to all of our weapons, but then to our player as well. And it'll act like as a pass-through kind of thing, or it's going to act as a way to like call animations on and things like that. So I'm going to do it on the parent class. We have characters, and we're going to do blueprint interface weapons. Compile, save. Okay. All right. So we have this melee swipe stuff. Now the melee swipe, we're basically asking if we can attack and do all these things. This is essentially an attack function, right? So we're actually going to change that out to use our new blueprint interface as opposed to just being right from the attack swipe kind of node. I'm going to keep that in there for now. Keep trying to get more of these comments in there, although I'm not really commenting too much on them. They're very simple comments. Okay. Enter combat state and exit combat state. These are custom functions, but we now have an enter attacking, exit attacking. Yeah, I guess we don't need the combat for a weapon. A weapon doesn't need to know whether it's in combat or not. It's more of like a camera thing, really. Damage state, death state, that's all fine. So we're going to do event attacking. Attacking. Enter blocking. Exit blocking, although I'm not sure if we're going to really put all these in here. right away. I'm just putting them down. Combat, in combat. The player can't swing their sword if they're not in combat. I'm not sure if we're ever going to need to check if we're attacking or not, if we're in combat, you know. Okay, so I think for our player, we already have this Boolean, right? Yeah, it's be attacking. So we actually need to take this and put it back into our other one. So we're going to call this old. Oops. Or deprecated, which is DEP for now. And let's do, I'm called be attacking. And if you don't change that, it's just going to yell at you and rename your one in this one to like _1 or something like that. Be attacking. I think we have a can attack thing here. This lets, yeah, we are going to have to change this into, I think, a function so that we can override it, essentially. So let's copy this, jump back into our character, new function called can attack. And what we're going to do is pop in this. We're going to return a Boolean called attack. This way we can basically take it and check a lot of different things. We can check if the character is blocking, if they're currently stunned, if they're still, you know, in the middle of attacking, or any of those kind of things. And based on the character, they might have different states or different things that stop them from being able to attack. So we want to be able to override it in every single kind of sub or child class. So we're doing that. Let's do can attack. Now, we want to take this and we're going to change it to a pure because we just started going to check on the Booleans and stuff and pop it out. So it's good. So as long as we can attack, we can do that. And then I think the same with exit attacking, right? No, we don't have an exit attacking. We just turned it off essentially here. Okay. Right now, I'm just gonna do this. We may want to do a check to see should we stop attacking. A good example is like attacks that can't be interrupted or something as well, or like some reason where if you call the exit attack like early, check to see if we can do that. Or in our case right now, we're just going to say, hey, the only way that we can stop attacking is if we, you know, we're already attacking. Otherwise, you know, we're not attacking. We don't need to do anything. Collapse these down. Enter attack and exit attack. I'm not going to worry about making this part into a function yet, the check here, just because I don't know 100% like what we're going to do with it yet. The damage state stuff by default is going to be basically like this. Later on, we're going to do a play an animation or do something like that. Death state's fine. Let's actually just take all these things and collapse them down. Death. All right. Okay. We'll do blocking a little bit later. I'm not going to worry about that yet. Any of this stuff. We'll get back to it. So, we have this ability to attack and end attacking. For our player character, it's going to be slightly different. We're basically going to build off of this, but we're also going to tell our weapon to either attack or not attack. So we're going to do the swipe. And what we're going to do is check if we can attack. We're just going to delete this guy. And by default, it's the same thing. We can override it later, but we're going to get rid of this, get rid of this, that. But we are going to say, hey, can we attack? Calculate the swipe direction, and then either do the attack or not, essentially. Let's just save this as an attack direction. And then enter attacking. Now we need to do the function for it. Enter attacking and exit attacking. Here's the question, though. Because we're essentially, we can't do the calculated stuff here. So we have swipes, and that's fine because we can have a big list of select swipe, based on this number. That part's okay. But then when we go to doing like the stabbing or any sort of special attack, like let's say a jump attack or something like that, we're not going to be playing any of these animations here. So the montage, we actually have to pass to it. Like we have to put it into the enter attacking or something like that. Or save it out into a variable, which then is tough. Because for the player, the attacking part, that state is the playing that animation, essentially. It's just, we're going to play this animation, and when it's done, we're done doing our attack moves. For the weapon, it's slightly different. It doesn't happen when we start the animation, it only happens at certain frames in the animation, and it's not to do anything except turn damage on and off, the ability to hurt someone. With that in mind, they're not quite the same thing. The enter attack for the player is, perform this attack, essentially. And when the attack is done, we exit. But so it's tough then. We also have to take into consideration how we want to develop the combo state. So you have an attack state. The player starts the attack. Before it ends, before we hit this exit attacking state, or state change, this event, we have a window where you can attack again. You might not be able to move or do anything like that. Or the exit attacking could just happen when that window opens up. And I haven't done a whole lot of combat programming or design before, so it's interesting. I feel like I'm reinventing a wheel or something, where I'm sure there's a really good way to do this, but I am not aware of it just because I haven't looked it up. I should probably do that, but this way is more fun sometimes. Okay. Let's think about this. We could have a different thing for it. So we have this enter attacking and then exit attacking. There's nothing that says that we wouldn't be able to put in a damage event as well, but I don't know. The only other thing we could do is just have the return weapon function as well. But when I'm thinking about that one, let's say we're doing this for the enemy. So the enemy starts an attack, they enter the attacking state. There's no event then for us to tell the character, since the weapon is built into the character, to start damaging things or not. So even for them, we would need two separate events. We need an event that says, hey, we are attacking, and one that says we are able to damage something, based on turning the damage on and off, like even specific to the character. Like if we had to do it for, more than one collision. Like let's say that Prime Helix has two fists, and one is a punch attack with the right, and the other is a punch attack with the left. You don't want to be standing next to the left hand, and it doesn't move. It's just sitting on the ground. The right hand punches, but you get damaged by the left hand because both of them turn on the damage. So we have to take a few of those things into consideration. I think overall, we definitely can do the just a straight up event right now, which is enter damage and exit damage. Yeah, and then we'll figure out what we want to do with the multiple damage, points on a character. Like if we can specify the weapon or the point on the character, we'll figure it out as we get there. We'll just do this for now. So this is going to be damaging, exit damaging. Okay. Now it would be actually kind of nice if we start to figure out how we want to handle some of this stuff. Okay. So what I would like to do is also just throw it into some categories. So enter attacking is going to be, let's do combat. Or it could be under weapon. Although this applies to the character too, though. Yeah, but whatever. It's fine. Let's just do it. Let's do weapon. Well, hold on. I think that I have categories just like this already, don't I? Because it would be better to keep it. Yeah, we have a combat. Attack. Yeah, let's just keep it as that then. So in here we do combat attack. We do combat weapon for equip. Combat attack. Combat blocking. And damaging. It's going to be an attack. Okay. Or this could be under weapon for the damaging part. So we're telling the weapon to begin damaging or stop being damaging. Okay. So this isn't going to be necessarily the collision, right? Instead, it's going to be, are we damaging? Okay, so, although here's the other problem. We may need an enter attacking state for our stuff, our weapons. What if we need to start or stop particle effects on it or anything like that? You know, swipe effects, stuff like that. You don't want it to just only happen during the frames where you're damaging. You know, you want the swing to start at other points or, you know, stuff like that to happen elsewhere. So this is still good to have. So what we're going to do is keep it. We're going to grab our collision. We're going to pop this down over here. Blocking, equip, all that's fine. You know what we're going to do is we're just going to collapse and collapse. Let's see if we can still fit this in here with other stuff. Collapse, collapse. And just collapse everything. Enter block, exit block. That's when we get blocked. Okay. Attack, exit attack. Okay, and then we're going to do event, enter damaging, and exit damaging. Okay. Now we need a Boolean. So only if we're attacking can we begin damaging. And I'm actually not going to check to see if we're, well, whatever, we can check. Be damaging. Okay. We can also toss this into here and say, can damage. Only if we're attacking and we're not already damaging. Oops. Let's not do that. Okay. All right, we're going to collapse these. So now we have an attack start, a damaging start. Now we just have to call it. Okay. Yeah, I'm really condensing this stuff up. You do not have to do that. Equip weapon group. Equip weapon group. Yep, hold on a second. All right. Let's see what next then. Okay, so we have all this set up, but in our player here, attack start and attack end kind of thing. We need to how are we going to do this? Because technically it's not going to be an attack starter end necessarily. Not in the sense that we're trying to accomplish this, because this isn't really an attack start, attack end. This is a damage start and damage end. Because we're naming it something different, we might want to change these notifies right away. So back in the animation stuff, you do the animation notify stuff, and let's rename some of this stuff. Damage start. Damage end. Use item, attack 1 end, attack 2 end. These we'll have to figure out, because they have their own kind of combo system, I think, from where this character was from, that we're not going to be using. Damage. I don't see anything for it. Which means that I have to look back at the animations. Okay, come on now. This back here. We'll have to come through and clean this up a bit anyway, I think. But yeah, so damage happens between these 2 points. That sounds about right. So it needs to, hopefully, show up now. Come on. Event. Your damage state. Let's just close it down and reopen it. Player animations, this one here. It still does not want to show up. Wonderful. I'm hoping that let's just play it through once. Let's see. It needs to update. For whatever reason, it doesn't want to. Because they're there, they exist, they just don't want to. They don't want to update. Okay, so let's also fix the attack stuff, because we never finished that. Player animations, this one here, it's fine. Animation notify. And they just have an attack start, attack end still, even though these are gone. Wish there was a good way to update it. Oh well. Okay, let's just imagine that it does work. Or let's just put in the attack start and end. So maybe it will still work even though they're technically not there anymore. So essentially this is saying, hey, damage. Enter damage, exit damage. Now for our player, or for our enemy really, we want that to happen in the player itself, right? Enter damaging, exit damaging. Okay. But for our player character specifically, we're just going to say, hey, get your weapon and apply the exact same thing to it. So weapon current, as long as we have one. And then technically, if we wanted like the player to be able to punch, it'll say not valid, and then we can apply it to like ourselves or something. But for now, we're just gonna do the same thing called enter damaging. Exit damaging. All right, and that'll go right to our weapons and turn the damage on and off. Of course, we need our character to still swing the weapon. And it's a good question, because essentially we also have an issue of, let's say we are attacking with one weapon versus another. So like a sword or the shield or a spear or anything that has different animations. How do we want to deal with those different animations? We can store them in the weapon, or we can store them like as a, update it when we pick up the weapon into the player and say, here's your current animation set with this thing. So we have to pick. So something we could do is just have because these are going to all be animation montages for all the attacks and stuff. We can swap out the animation blueprint itself to support kind of whatever it is that we're doing ultimately. Like if there's a different movement set or idle set or anything like that with different weapons, we have to do it there. But when it comes to the attacking part, we're just calling an animation montage. So we can save out that montage based on this stuff here into a variable. And then we will attack direction current is still something that we might want to keep though. Combat attack. Okay. We'll keep it for the time being. But we also want a montage called the attack montage current. And then we could also eventually get like a previous montage to check against like combos or something like that. Animation montage, attack current. Okay. By default, we're just going to toss attack 1 in there. We really shouldn't ever have like no attack happening, but that is something maybe we should check. Basically say, hey, only if we have a current montage can we do anything. That could actually be part of the can attack. So the can attack stuff here, this is in our parent class. It's just here, enter attacking, do this. So here with our enter attacking, we need to override our can attack to make sure that we have this in here as a valid thing before we even get into the attack part. So let's do that. And we're going to say set